So welcome to the buildings track also from my behalf. I'm Sakari Lahti. I'm kind of part of the structures division, so working closely with the Tekla products. Been with the company 12 years now on different tasks, now focusing into kind of new growth opportunities and also timber being one of them. And it's honored to be the first present on this session. So I hope everybody will have a really good day and experience with the Trimble Connected Construction Day. So if we go to the slides, I can see in the screen only. Yes, now there's the slides. Perfect. Yes, and there's now my face also on the screen. Good. So my presentation is kind of in two different sections. First, more generally about Tekla and timber construction, and then focusing into kind of what's new in the Tekla Structures 2025 release for that. So why Tekla and timber construction? Well, many of you know kind of the Europe's ambitious and the kind of European Green Deal, which is another suggestion. It's a kind of legally enforced, heavily funded market transformation towards, let's say, greener construction. And of course, kind of there's mandates now for 2030 to cut emissions by 55%. And on different aspects, there's over 1 trillion euros being invested in different kind of investments around kind of that act. And of course, buildings hold a big share of the emissions, and there's a lot to improve on that space, which of course is then kind of related to timber construction. And I like to think timber as a kind of, if we wouldn't have trees at the moment and somebody would engineer kind of the seed that would grow into a tree that actually gets carbon from the air and is strong material, I think that would be quite a cool idea of kind of creating a new material. But we have it, it's kind of nature's high-tech material, and it has some really good qualities. Of course, it's not kind of the material for all different places and occasions. There's kind of other materials with good characteristics, so you always need to consider the best material for the best location. But definitely something that will likely increase because of this environmental push for more greener construction. One big trend also happening generally in the construction is that you need to build faster, you need to build smarter, you need to have prefabrication, you need to have automation, and all of that is kind of very well linked with the possibilities with timber construction, and that translates often in the requirements for the software also, and especially what we can see kind of what is missing from the market, that if you're doing hybrid construction, which is kind of the trend of the timber construction anyway, so you need to have that multi-material capability of combining different materials to come up with the kind of most optimized solution from the building aspect. And you need to have that level of customization just for the timber connections, for example, when you combine steel with timber. Projects are getting bigger. Let's say the owners and the contractors are getting more ambitious on building with timber, and that of course kind of creates pressure for the software that you use for the design to have that capability to handle large models, have multiple people working on the same model at the same time. So kind of taking kind of these two aspects takes away from the traditional only timber focused softwares to something more generic. And of course, customizability, you need to have that flexibility to define your own connections, do the detailing like you are needed to do for that exact project. You need to have interfaces to different systems and also to different machinery, like explained. So you need those APIs to connect to multiple different places. And of course, BIM requirements, kind of the industry has been talking about BIM for over decades. but the definitions and the requirements for those kind of BIM submittals, and especially IFC, kind of what should be there, how the property information should be kind of written, how it should be calculated. More and more requirements on really defining the actual meaningful kind of content of BIM submittals. If you look at the kind of Tekla offering for Timber, of course we have Tekla TETS, which is a kind of great tool to have those simple calculations. We have quite a few different libraries created for timber construction on that software, been heavily used already for quite some time. And of course, Tekla Structural Designer is capable of handling timber as one of the materials for the design. And if we go to Tekla Structures, the timber has been used with that also over decades already, so not a new thing in that sense, but it's something that our customers kind of just realized when they first started with steel, and then they had a project when it needed to have a timber in it, that our tool is actually quite flexible and capable for that. So just a few examples, also really nice projects done, all over Nordics, in Sweden especially. So great achievements there. But I want to take a moment also to promote a bit Finland, where I'm from. There's just a week ago, this project won a kind of the highest architectural award in Finland, and it's called Katajanokan Laituri, which is right at the city center of Helsinki. The architecture and the scale and the beauty of the building is so nice. So I highly recommend visiting this building in Helsinki if you by any chance are visiting Finland or coming to Helsinki. Here is a short video of the project images blended with the structural beam model that contains timber, steel, precast and cast-in-place structures of the beam. Good. Some numbers of the project. So it is kind of Finland's largest mass timber building by volume. Now that it is finished last year, so over 7,600 cubic meters. It almost had 2,500 unique prefabricated elements, and kind of the timber used in that has stored over 6,000 tons of CO2. And the process, how our customer Sweco, who was the structural engineer and kind of the detailer for the mass timber in the project, they created Tekla Structures model, sent the data as IFC for the fabricator. They had some drawings also kind of in the places where you need to provide some extra information, but basically the whole process of construction was completely digital. So then the Stora Enso, who was the timber manufacturer for those structural elements, took that data and transformed it to kind of automation data in the fabrication. And of course, kind of this process leads to an error-free assembly. While looking kind of the problems in the timber construction in general, I two categories, in my opinion, one is around standardization on many different levels, and also kind of the production data, how to commonalize that process so you don't kind of spend time on iterating the same information to different system, and also not make errors during that process. One example about the standardization, you can probably find by Googling TIM 2025, that there was a project last year or this year kind of completed in Finland, which had a kind of goal of unifying the methods of modeling, and not the actual kind of modeling, but what the final output of the model would be for the timber industry in the BIM environment. And with that project, there's also some kind of standard drawings, or let's say the recommended drawings, to how the drawings should look like in timber construction. And of course, these kind of agreements or guidelines are really good to standardize the industry. And it also kind of helps us as a software provider to provide something that is not just for one customer, but it is actually for many customers. And also create some motivation for us to deliver kind of common methods of modeling these kind of timber objects. A little bit about the kind of process of let's say timber from the timber manufacturing point of view. When you do a project, there's a roughly 30% kind of happening in the BIM coordination. Let's say you coordinate with the structural engineer, then you do the detailing, which is kind of bulk of the work. Now with Tekla Structures, like mentioned in the Katanoka project also, you can kind of create those IFCs that the kind of CNC machine operators are using, and they can convert that information in their software, and they can kind of define those critical, let's say, processing information, which is kind of the operations and the grain direction and the placement for the production. Anyway, in a kind of mass timber products like CLT, you kind of do the production through nesting. So you want to place those different elements and optimize the usage of those big CLT panels in the production. So that is kind of what is happening anyway on their side in the CNC operation. But we do have also kind of for the products that doesn't necessarily need nesting, we have tool formats available via our partner Construsoft, who provides these exports where you can go directly into production from Tekla Structures. Of course, that requires then that you define those operations in Tekla Structures and in those kind of cut part objects. But anyway, kind of that can enable a workflow to production without the additional nesting kind of need. Okay, then let's go to the 2025. What's new there regarding kind of the standardization and something that we've acknowledged already quite some time, that we don't actually offer any kind of timber tools with the software. And now we have kind of timber objects provided in Tekla Warehouse. But the benefits of using these tools is that you don't need to use, depending on again on the kind of preference. I would say the customers have been using kind of the steel objects or the concrete objects to model timber objects. But now, when you use these tools, you can have your own customized standard settings, so you don't need to mix them with the other materials. It makes it easy for anybody to learn and find kind of the tools that should be used. There's also these predefined properties that are visible only for timber objects and are relevant only for timber objects. So again, we don't kind of pollute the UI with the information that is not relevant for other object types. And also these are kind of something that you can now use in a filter also, so you can easily kind of see that which objects are kind of timber object types. But let's see if the video plays. Yes, I think it's playing. So here you can see very basic usage of those tools, and I think we might have a time for short live demonstration also, if I just know how to switch to my actual screen. So if we go here, yes, and then Tekla Structures. Will somebody kind of, yes, thanks. So you will get this kind of timber tab to your Tekla Structures once you install the extension, and these are the tools that will come with it. So, for example, the wall modeling is very similar to, let's say, concrete panel modeling, but few things that I want to show here is that you can see that it's actually called a wall, not a panel, and it only has thickness and height, which is quite nice for kind of any wall type, as you might have situations, for example, you might have situations where you have different. Sorry, I'm getting pop-up messages to the other screen about expanding the view area. You might have situations that you have different heights, but you would only want to change the, let's say, the thickness for the walls. So now with this approach, that is possible, and also it makes it unified. Kind of what is the thickness and what is the height. As you know, you can kind of with the parametric profile where you have like 160 times 3000, which is the profile, and underneath that is the profile also here. But then depending on the user, they might have a different way of defining that, and that then leads into problems when you start to create drawings or send data onwards. One kind of aspect also regarding kind of the speciality of this is that if you have defined, let's say, CLT materials, for example, like here, you can find actually, if you go to Tekla Warehouse and type CLT, you can find these exact kind of examples from our main CLT providers in the market. But anyway, if I set this type from this manufacturer, you can see that it automatically also fills kind of the lamella thicknesses property, because that is kind of defined also in the material product code. It also would have changed the thickness of this slab, because it wants to make sure that if you go from that route to define what CLT you're using, it will actually change all of those properties. That's kind of a nice way of standardizing the way of modeling, making it a bit more easier and kind of more intuitive when you're doing only timber modeling. Good, but that would be the let's say the specialities. We have the same approach for slabs also. So, for example, there you define also the thickness and the width. And with this approach, as it's like a beam object, we avoid again the potential problems with the coordinate systems. If some users might model as a plate, you might run into coordinate system problems with that approach. Good. I'll go back to the slides. Let's see if somebody can then change me back. Yes. Okay. One extension that we also kind of created is this marker tool, which can be used for whatever object types in that sense, but especially for CLT, where you need to define that grain direction, or you want to share that in a 3D format, so you make sure that the CNC operator really knows that, okay, this is the grain direction, even though it's also as a property. So this tool is kind of intended for that too. And as you remember, for the CLTs, you had the grain direction or the lamella direction property there. So with this tool, it can kind of automatically apply the direction according to that property. So again, kind of no risk of having a misaligned information. And the last thing is this kind of common screw object type, which is kind of in the core, it's like a bolt type. But the nice thing here is that, again, you don't get that overwhelming amount of things on the UI. It is kind of clear, makes it clear that this should be used for modeling screws. There's quite many different variations what I've seen, what our customers are kind of doing for that at the moment. And they might run into, for example, performance problems if they are using parts, especially multiple parts, to represent one screw. So this is very lightweight. And again, kind of uh, you have only the common properties. We are providing also this example set of common screws because you need to have that as a kind of catalog type, so you cannot freely enter what is the let's say the diameter and what is the length. So you need to have definitions of those screw types, but the kind of the example set is quite extensive. Then you can define also the threaded length, either for the tip or from the head, and the additional product code, which is probably the most important information that you want to show in bill of materials or in drawings. And kind of one of the problem has been that if you just model it with a bolt or kind of simple beam, you don't get to see the threading or the appearance, like screw type of appearance in the drawings. But it now comes also with the custom presentation plugin. So once you have those in the model, you can set that custom presentation for these objects on, and then they will appear this screw type of 2D graphics in your drawings. Good. Yeah, all of these what I presented can be downloaded from Tekla Warehouse. All of them will work after, I think it was Service Pack 8 of 2024 or then 2025 version. Good. We have still a few minutes left. I just wanted I know that there will be great presentations after me about these things, but just from the timber aspect, I want to highlight three things which I think is really nice for this 2025 version. First one is the Tekla launcher, which means kind of that you have the environments in the cloud. You don't need to download and find or different environments if you want to just kind of browse and see what other environments might have. So it's really easy now to select whatever kind of environment and whatever model template, for example, from some environment, and just explore if some environment would have actually the stuff that you're looking for, or you kind of suddenly need to do a project for another country or for another client. So really cool stuff. And again, kind of what I mentioned about constructs of that, you might want to check, for example, the constructs of the European environment. They have also some kind of timber-related localization done there. But I know that, for example, in Sweden and Norway also. So in that sense, it's good, but faster to explore kind of what's on the other side. Then AI assistant, I think what makes it really nice in overall with this Gen AI tools is that kind of you basically get that kind of own language access to whatever software. Now kind of regardless of what language you use, you can start to ask questions and learning kind of the software from the approach that you might want to find that information from. And the nice thing is also kind of that when there will be these kind of support articles created by the support crew, all of that information can be kind of found from these assistants. So that's kind of definitely something that I wish that our kind of support teams in all around the world will kind of do even more and more, because this will give a great context for all the new users of Tekla Structures, or kind of the ones that need to start to do something that they haven't done in the past. And the final thing is the AI cloud application drawings. I think Simon will present these also later today. But again, kind of highlighting that if you're doing timber, it might have many different kind of components, kind of object types or kind of product types that you're doing. And it might be tedious to do all of those drawing settings for those drawings to get the productivity of drawing creation faster. But now, kind of with this AI cloud fabrication drawings, you might just do everything manually first, and then already the next one will be quite good. Then at some point you have created so many drawings that actually kind of the outcomes are quite good, even though it's not based on rules. It's just based on kind of finding the best match and cloning from that. But I think this will kind of lower down the time to get quality drawings, especially for specific elements, compared to the, let's say, the traditional setups that you would want to do if you would want to be productive. And final thing related to Tekla Structural Designer, there's a new feature for wall edge releases, which is very important for CLT constructions. So you can define those kind of separate releases for the sides or for the top and down, and making it possible to define the structure to act like it would act in reality. Maybe just to kind of highlight that for timber, and I would say for all the materials, the customizability is inevitable, and that's why we have kind of custom components. We have API, we have warehouse where to download more stuff. There's a developer center that can help you if you're not into API yourself. I already mentioned kind of Construct being one of those players heavily focusing into timber developments. And we have the connector suppliers found in the Tekla warehouse. And for example, for Rotoplast, they are providing IFC objects in their own web pages with a much extensive catalog. So again, you can take those IFCs, convert them to items, and use those in Tekla Structures, for example, if you need some of their connections. And kind of what I've been mentioning already, the mass timber, that is something that I clearly see kind of Tekla Structures being not out of the box, but with its basic kind of capabilities, it is something that is well positioned to be the tool to be used in that type of projects. And then when it goes to light timber and housing and this industrialized kind of timber framing construction, you might need that kind of extra set of tools, and for those I would encourage to reach out to Construsoft, that they have kind of lots of experience from the Benelux areas with the customers kind of doing that type of projects with Tekla. Good, but thank you, Tak. If there's any questions,
Thank you very much for your presentation, Sakari. I am personally really happy for this development, finally. We have a question for you. How do you get the information on the beam in the IFC model? Perhaps you need some further explanation, perhaps.
Yeah, well, if I understood good, maybe it is related to these new timber object types, and if you can kind of get the information to IFC. So that is all possible. Kind of those are like the Tekla steel parts at the inside in that sense, and in the property set manager, you can then kind of define your property sets in the way that you include all the properties that you desired. But that is something that kind of probably you need to do those property sets now yourself, because it's quite new developments, and eventually I hope kind of the localization will catch up and have those settings pre-made for you. But at this point, it is possible to do that with configuring the property sets of the IFC export. I hope that was kind of what the question was about.
Yeah. Otherwise, you can write again, Simon. We have no further questions, and thank you, Sakari. We'll take a short break now. Och vi kommer vara tillbaka klockan 10:40. Då ska vi få lyssna på Mattias Dahlvik från Kadesjö som ska berätta hur de jobbar. Så sträck lite på benen, ta en kaffe, så syns om en stund.